we were formed as a city government, incorporated as a city in 1970, as you know. The community was different then. Where I was living was more rural and farm, and when our citizens then voted on the charter in 1970, kind of set up the rules for government. So it set up the type of government we have, council members, clerk, treasurer, my office, what the responsibilities are, taxation. We're a 36 square mile community that has the airport in the center, so the taxation that was set up back then was limited at 10 mills by the charter. So the great thing about our government is that government can't raise taxes, can't change that.
Right.
Only the people can. So here we are, 2018, living in a different world. As you mentioned earlier, we formed a police department in '81, went to full-time fire in '99. So as we've, increased and enhanced those services as the community changed, here's where we are today, is that there really was no dedicated funding that was established back when we created the police or the fire department. That it was different then. As you know, we had Wayne County Sheriff patrolling before we had our own PD. We had a volunteer system for fire before that. It's a different world today.
Yeah.
And so really what's really important now, and one of the biggest things we face, is that what goes to our general fund for those services. And if you think a general fund is really, it touches departments at City Hall, DPW, included police and fire services, many different departments, is that we have a huge portion of that general fund budget that now is dedicated and funding those services that have changed over those years. So that's part of the issue, and then there's other factors which I call it really a revenue issue. So we all lived through, talk about dates and significant things that happened in history. Everybody remembers 2008 when the bottom fell out of the economy, and what happened. And a lot of people don't realize in local government, our main source of revenue is property tax, meaning real property that's owned by residential people, businesses alike. So those property values basically plummeted back in 2008. It took a few years for them to really bottom out and now start to creep up. And actually just a couple of years ago, they finally bottomed out. What's significant about that piece is that lost value in property tax is lost revenue. And when I'm talking to people, if I'm just having a cup of coffee or at church or business people, and I ask them, their taxes they paid back in '08 compared to where it is now. If you own the same piece of property, like for example myself, what we were paying today is much less than what it was back in '08. So think about it. Everyone could answer that the same way, and will, because if they've owned their property for the last 10 years, for residential or business. And so what happens is that lost revenue is the income and the revenue that the city uses to fund these essential services. So that's a significant date. What's different about it, and most people will say, well, Mayor, gosh, the economy's good, the jobs are strong, the market's strong, we should be okay. And the problem with that is, if people remember Proposal A, what happened is it capped the ability of inflation, or 5% of those values going back up. So the problem won't fix itself. Basically, it's going to take us till 2041 before we ever get to where we were in '08 with those values. As Kevin will talk about later, the need and the demand that's there, it's not going to fix itself.
No.
The other major hit, and this isn't just a Romulus issue. We talk, and you network with other chiefs and other departments. All municipal government have faced that same issue. Okay, the other issue that a lot of local governments have faced is this revenue sharing issue. And think of revenue sharing as the state saying, we will give you, and we promise this money to you to share back revenue when they raise the sales tax. And so what's happened, and for Romulus alone, since 2002, we're minus $9 million that the state promised us. That, can you imagine what we could do with $9 million for these essential services? Yeah. So if you look at the values and the revenue sharing that's down, those two factors alone really makes it difficult to operate a city or municipal government. So those aren't things that are anybody's fault, Dennis. It's not our firefighters or police officers or workers. It's not our residents. It's not city council's fault or anybody's. That's a reality. That's the way the law is structured. That was done in Lansing. So now we've got to find other ways to do it. And so what a lot of communities are doing and are forced to do are to basically go to the taxpayers and fund these services. If it be public safety, police, fire millages, road millages, library millages, you see them, recreation millages, all over, every ballot, all over the state, because the state has put everybody in that position. So here we are. We're doing our best to make sure that we've been frugal with spending. We've done a lot of creative things. I really compliment Chief Kraus and his team, and on the police side as well. DPW, City Hall, we've been doing more with less for years. And to the fact where we are down so many employees, you can't cut your way to success. And so what we're going to be doing, and the residents are going to see in November, a very reasonable ask for us, is we're asking to have a dedicated portion of funding that will only be going to police and fire. It'll be, a locked-in amount. We're asking for a 5-year commitment, 4 mills, dedicated to those essential services. So that doesn't solve the whole problem, but that helps us sustain and be able to have Chief Kraus and his team be able to go out and do things they need to do. We've still got to continue to look for efficiencies and look for opportunities. Chief Kraus will talk a little bit about our SAFER grant we got, but that was just one. We've had, Joe Martin and his office, and we've had a grant writer come in, and we're really looking for any way possible that we can get grants from the federal government, from the state, or other sources, but even those won't solve it. So, we have to continue to work with our employees and try to be creative and find quicker, better, faster, more economic ways to do things. But let's not kid ourselves. This is very, very important. This is one of the most important elections of my whole career in local government, and it's very important because this is going to allow us to sustain these essential services for our residents that really deserve it. And what we're asking people really is get the facts. We're doing town halls, we're doing small groups, and it's something that is a very reasonable ask. What it's going to basically do in a nutshell is what your taxes are lower now from '08 to now. It'll probably bring us up into that range. We have data we can give them from the assessor that'll tell them the exact impact. The overall average for our community is about 42 cents a day is what it relates to. I know that people are, when I've talked to folks and even some seniors said, look, I'm on a limited budget. I'm on a fixed budget,
right.
and any increase, any additional tax is a burden, and I get that. I don't like tax. You don't like tax. Nobody likes tax. But here's the thing: we're going to pay this anyway. These services that we're providing are so essential that if we don't, this could impact our ratings for our own personal insurance. So therefore, I rather fund the services rather than pay an insurance company because our rating's lower because we can't provide the residents the level of service that they really need. So to me, I was talking to another mayor from a different community, and they said, "Boy, that's a no-brainer, Burkroff. That's going to have no problem passing." I said, "Wait a minute, we don't have a good track record here."
No.
So
we haven't had a millage passed since 1970.
No,
correct?
we have not.
I mean, city, not school.
City, correct, on the city side, and I'm really proud of that because here, we've done a good job with the tax dollar. In fact, we have the second lowest city operating tax of any city in Wayne County, which is 43 communities. That's pretty cool.
Yes,
That's a competitive advantage. We use that to market that, to bring business in. So we're doing very well with the budget that we have. We've been creative. We can't fix this problem without the residents' help. So that's why we're here talking about it. That's why we're doing town halls.